In the fabled land of Northern California, nestled in the Valley of Sacramento, two friends begin a journey to enlighten the world about their experience living life as a Xennial. But what is a Xennial, you may ask? If you wish to know, then follow them on their adventures.
Welcome to the Xennial Chronicles. This is James.
This is Mike.
And today we will be talking about two things that are really important to, well, one that's important to me, two that are important to Mike.
I would say so, yeah.
I mean, the other one is kind of important to me. I'll get to that. We're talking about two establishments, businesses, companies.
Yes.
That really came up in prominence during our wonderful Xennial childhoods. It's been a while since we've made a real Xennial connection to our stuff. We've kind of just been ranting and raving and talking about wonderful things, which has been fun. But I want to bring us back to the connection with how society changed during our formative years.
Okay.
And these two companies, I think, were a big, I wouldn't even say big, huge part of that change. These two companies have become cultural icons.
Okay.
Or at least one still is, one is sadly basically no longer. And that's the one we're going to talk about first.
Okay.
So the first thing we're going to talk about is the place where both you and I worked and where you and I first met, where you met your wife.
Yes.
Where technically I met my wife before I even knew her.
Oh, wow.
That's a fun story.
Oh, that's cool.
I'll relate that story if you like.
Sure.
And this place we're talking about is the mythical, the wonderful Blockbuster Video.
The mythical Blockbuster Video.
Well, it's
the
mythical
stuff of
now.
legend, friends.
It is nowadays. I mean, you've seen the meme. I believe it's been sent to me multiple times of somebody finding a Blockbuster case in dirt or something, and it's like a fossil from previous times. The meme explains it better than I do.
Oh, yes, the ancient
artifact.
The ancient artifact, the Blockbuster card. I think I might still have mine somewhere. I know I got my old name tag.
You have your old name tag. I know you have a tie pin that I gave you.
Yes.
I wish I still had my old shirts. I would wear them just for,
I don't have my old shirts either.
Thinking about it, I probably couldn't fit into my old shirts. You could probably fit into my old shirts. I could not. I've grown a lot since then.
I do want to go to the, I don't know if you're going to mention this, or you know what, I'll talk to, speaking of shirts, possibly later if I think you're going to go where I think you're going to go. But what's going down, dude? What's going down?
So, I did a whole bunch of research on this because I was going to do this as kind of an educational episode at first. My original thought was I'm going to go through the whole history of Blockbuster and talk about how it was made, the guy who started it, all he did getting up to it. And I said, no, that is boring as crap.
Okay.
It really is, especially considering how we've kind of dealt with things the last couple of times, just kind of talking back and forth about stuff.
Yeah.
I felt it was better more to talk about our remembrances of Blockbuster, but some information, and that is that in 1987, there were only 19 stores.
Right.
And there was a huge expansion that ended up in 93. He bought controlling interest in the Spelling Entertainment Group, like Aaron Spelling, the guy who owns Blockbuster. In 93, he bought Spelling Entertainment Group. Aaron Spelling, 90210.
Yeah. Was it Aaron Spelling, like Tori Spelling's dad?
That's why she was in 90210.
Oh.
In fact, interestingly enough, he was more concerned every week.
Isaac Tori Spelling?
Well, he was more concerned every single week about what her character Donna was doing in the show than he was concerned about any other part of the show, because it was nepotism at its highest.
So I'm assuming that ruined the hell out of that show.
Why do you think Donna's character was a virgin for so long? Not even joking. But anyway,
wow, that's funny, dude.
When you saw the main expansion of Blockbuster in the early 90s, they suddenly found themselves everywhere. They were buying out basically every other video chain.
So they were just getting rid of ma and pa shops left and right.
And part of that was because the guy who originally started it, his name was David Cook. He set up the infrastructure that was needed. He set up the warehouses that had all of the VHS and originally Betamax too. They originally had Betamax in there.
Really?
But he set up all of the distribution warehouses so that he could supply all of the stores. The other video stores, the ma and pa places, didn't have that infrastructure that he built. They just
got to their specific location, however few copies that they got for a film.
Yeah.
And then that was it.
His idea was to build that infrastructure, and that's where he was able to take over the market.
Interesting.
And become basically the number one in video rental for years.
Wow.
Only at one point slightly challenged by Hollywood, but not even really. The only
Yeah, I mean, Hollywood,
like,
I knew a lot of people that were just like counterculture kids that like to shop at Hollywood instead.
Or the customers that would get pissed off and be like, well, you don't have it, I'm going to go to Hollywood. And as they walked out, we'd be like, yeah, Hollywood don't have it either. They get less supply than we do. We have more buying power.
Right. Pretty much. I mean, that was, I remembered. Oh, God, I remember that. I still, in my current retail chain that I still work in.
You saw the people like, well, if you aren't going to give me a deal,
I'm going to go to
such
them.
and such
Yeah,
place.
yeah, all the time.
That,
it's like, don't be bitter, man. We just don't have it. Calm down.
When I worked at the store that makes you wear orange aprons.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd get people that would come in all the time and be like, well, you don't have it? I'm going to go to the one that makes you wear either blue or red aprons. I don't remember what the color was. Blue and red are their colors, so.
Oh.
But, yeah.
I know blue aprons, the blue apron one, but I don't know about a red apron one.
I don't remember what they wore. Now they wear vests at that place. They still wear the
orange
aprons
yeah,
at the other place.
They do wear vests.
But anyway, yeah, at Blockbuster had this amazing buying power because of these distribution warehouses that he built up. And that's why, every Thursday we would get our orders in. Remember? We'd get our huge boxes of orders in.
Release dates were Tuesday?
Technically, yes, Tuesday mornings.
Yes, but we would get the stock like the weekend before.
You'd get the stock on Thursday. Whoever was working Thursday morning had to do the receiving.
Yep.
Had to receive all the stuff in.
Yep.
That was my job when I was an assistant manager. I was the receiving manager because I was also the manager who worked Monday night, which was when you did the new release wall.
I remembered that was like a huge deal because people would pop in the weekend beforehand, and sometimes we'd have the box full of VHS tapes or DVDs sitting behind the counter. Oh, that's in. Can I rent that? No. Nope.
We can because we're employees.
And technically speaking, I mean, it's not technically outside of the. It's still not outside of the.
Employees
ownership.
Employees had special accounts where we were allowed to rent movies before they came out.
Well, totally. You got to be able to like recommend stuff and all that.
Definitely.
Now, what's funny is most new retailers, as far as I know, most new retailers don't have that luxury.
Actually, I've heard that at movie theaters nowadays, especially with the with anything that's owned by Disney and their strict policies on things. I'm saying this, of course, because it's right after I've seen the movie, or a week after, not even a week, like 4 days after I've seen the movie Endgame. Finally, they don't let movie theaters don't let the employees watch movies beforehand now, depending on the movie.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like all the Disney stuff, all the Marvel stuff,
kind of stuff.
they don't want you. They don't let you go.
Well, hell, at that point, they'll probably just they'll probably digital transfer it at midnight the day of release, and then you pop it in and go.
Yeah, basically, that's how they work them now.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to take the film reel or anything like that. That doesn't happen. Doesn't need to.
Different world.
Yeah,
but no, I remember that used to be one of the biggest perks of working at Blockbuster was the fact that you got to rent the movies beforehand.
Oh yeah,
and you'd have the employees coming in on Thursday. What came in today? What came in? What can I get? Even if they weren't working on Thursday, they'd pop in. Have you done the receiving yet? What do you mean you haven't done the receiving yet? Receive it. I want to rent it. I remember actually our store manager at the time Thursday was her day off.
Yeah,
and she would always come in and be like, I had to have by a certain time of day, I had to have everything received because if I didn't have everything received, she would be coming behind the counter and receiving it herself so she could rent the movies because she came in on Thursday. She was renting whatever the new releases were.
That sounds about right.
New releases were like 2-day rentals back then, except if you were an employee renting it before it came out, then it was a 5-day.
Yeah,
you remember that?
Yeah. Yep.
So we had enough time to be able to watch it.
They transferred it over to.
Yeah, once it came live on the day that it came out, it went. But that was Monday having to do the new release wall.
But you had to have it. I remember, even if it was a 5-day rental,
you had to have it in Monday.
Yeah, even if it was a 5-day rental, you had to have it in by Monday night.
Yeah, because Monday night, if you remember, I believe you used to close with me almost every Monday night.
Yep.
Monday night after the store closed.
Yep.
The closing duties were to put those movies out on the shelves.
Yeah, put them on the shelf.
You'd
already on display. You have to clear out the space on Monday evening.
Yep,
like
that was my job.
Well, sometimes you would do it. Sometimes the opener would do it midday.
Usually
not often though.
No, when I was doing it, the opener was our manager.
Yeah,
and she would do most of her paperwork on that day.
Yeah,
and then the new release wall was kind of my thing.
The stuff.
Well, I was really good at organizing the new release wall. It was kind of
Yeah.
one of my things I had learned how to do well. So she kind of left the new release wall to me, and it kind of became my wall.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that.
In fact, if you remember, our store had that. Thinking about it now, it was such a security risk
Yeah.
to have that new release wall, because it was like in between. It was right at the edge of where the register area was, and it was like 6 foot tall, so we couldn't see over it.
Right.
We couldn't see through it and around it. It literally separated us from the rest of the whole store.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Quick question though: were the lights still working when you were the weird laser lights on the floor? Were those still working when you got hired there?
No, I don't remember
You
anything
don't remember
about
the
laser
huge
lights on the
mounted
floor.
laser lights?
Nope.
Yeah, they did like a Blockbuster symbol that would move around and then stop and then move around and then stop. There were these huge light things.
I never remembered
Yeah,
seeing that.
they probably were
How long were those in there and stopped working?
maybe
before?
a year, maybe
Wow.
not even.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know. I mean,
It just sounds like a hokey thing.
I actually opened that store. You knew that, right?
No.
Yeah, I was part of the opening crew. I was one of the first 7 people hired for that store.
So what year did it open then?
Or no, one of
'Cause
the first 12
It was
people.
far past when I had even been hired by the company.
Let me think here. I need to do the math of the years. 99. July of 99 was when that store was open.
Oh, so the store had just been recently opened when I got in there.
Yeah, it
Because I
wasn't too long.
graduated in 2000.
Yeah, it wasn't too
So
long.
it
that
had been out
open.
for like a year. It had been open for a year, and then I got into the store in like September.
August, September, around in there. Yeah.
August, September 2000. Yeah, because I remember what I had done. I graduated high school, and then I moved out, and I started working at Blockbuster that summer.
Yeah, I was a year in.
And then I got transferred up to Yuba City.
I was a year in before you. But that was after my first year of college that I was working there. I was working there
Yeah,
and
you're
going
just
to college at the same time.
were you a 99?
98 graduate.
98? Okay, yeah. You're 2 years ahead of me. Okay.
But no, I was there. In fact, my employee number was 12.
012?
Like, you know how you have like there was the store number, the 6-digit store number.
Oh, yeah.
Like ours was 206605, I think.
Yeah.
It's scary that I can remember that almost 20 years
Well,
later.
that's weird. Okay, so I thought that the number went up and store numbers went up, but they don't. Like, because I was, mine is 06605 was the store number on Stabler.
Yes, that was ours.
06768 was Rockland.
Yeah,
Was the one on Pacific and Rockland.
I think the numbers were just randomized.
Yeah, I think so.
But my actual number for my account number, which was your employee number as well.
Yeah.
My number was 12. Just 12.
00012?
Just 12.
206-605-00012.
Yes.
Wow, mine was 4600.
Yeah,
Mine was 4600 in Yuba, but it was 11036 in Rockland.
mine was 12.
Damn.
Yeah, that's how again on the ground floor I was one of the
Did
first.
you start as an associate or did you start as an AM?
I started as an associate, as a CSR, customer service representative.
Cool.
Yeah, I started there. I can say when I was offered the assistant manager position, I was the second person offered the assistant manager position. We had an assistant quit.
Nice.
I was the second person offered. I won't say the name of the person that was offered it originally,
Right.
but I can say this much: she was more deserving of it than me.
Oh.
She was definitely a better employee than me. We were the two best in the store.
Oh.
She was faster than I was,
Oh.
and she was definitely more prepared for responsibility than I was. She didn't want it though. She refused
Oh, okay.
it. She didn't want the full-time work. She didn't want the extra hours. She was perfectly happy being a part-time employee and working
Okay.
as a part-time employee. Do
So-
you remember the CSR that our manager always had working with her?
Oh, is that who it was?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Yes. She was offered
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
She was offered it originally, and she just didn't
She was
want
hella
it.
cool.
Oh yeah, she was amazing.
Super chill.
She was also hired at the very beginning with me. We were all,
I did not
we were
know
in the
that.
same group. And then it was offered to me because I was the second best in the store. And I can say it's one of the few times that I've been second best at something and I've had no
Been
problem.
completely fine with it.
No problem being considered second best because I know she was better than me. When her and I were working together,
Yeah.
you didn't even need a manager in the store. When we were just CSRs, you didn't need a manager because we were so
You guys are just
quick.
kicking it. Yeah.
We were so quick. We were so good with our customers. We never made any mistakes. We were fantastic together.
Cool, man.
But no, then I was offered the assistant manager. You only came in after I was an assistant manager.
Yeah.
And you became one of my, between you and the, I don't know if you remember the gentleman that was in the Air Force, tall, I don't want to say much more than that. He was one of the better CSRs, but you were the one that I enjoyed having on my shifts the most.
Oh.
Because I knew kind of what your strengths and weaknesses were.
Yeah.
And what you felt best at doing.
Well,
I
was at the time I was pretty unconfident, and I was also, I knew it, relatively average, I would say.
You were still young and green around the gills.
Yeah, and honestly, like the thing is that it's nobody goes into a retail job wanting a retail job.
Typically not.
And I was one of those typically not wanting that kind. Like I didn't want that. I also was not fully, I was not fully aware of what I was necessarily passionate about. I knew I had stuff I had interest in, but I was still trying to kind of figure things out. I was 18 years old.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting about that is I felt. We've discussed before that Blockbuster was in many ways during that time that we were young adults, teenagers, young adults. Blockbuster was a desirable place to start out working.
It was extremely actually
much more so than
there were like
any
surveys
food
and stuff that said Blockbuster was the top job, the top retail position job that most people around our age at that time wanted to have.
Interestingly, the only thing that I heard rated better, and I will drop the name of it now.
Yeah.
And this was actually better for people that were more like 25 to 35 in age.
Right.
Was Home Depot.
Oh, really? So Home Depot and Blockbuster were the two like major chains at the time.
Yeah.
That were the most desirable for employment.
And I can say with Home Depot,
it had 25 to 35 making a lot more sense for that age range because most people are owning homes or they're doing DIY or that kind of stuff.
Or they had some experience.
But kids are like, hey, we want to go and watch movies and talk about movies and stuff. Like,
well, and that's why
video games and
Blockbuster
stuff like
for me,
that was our thing.
I was actually offered the job at Blockbuster at the same time I was offered a job at Target.
Oh, cool.
I got both jobs the same week.
Nice.
Here's the difference between the two. Blockbuster was willing to work around my college schedule.
Target wasn't?
Target was not.
Oh, well, then. Oh, well.
I took the Blockbuster job.
Yeah, cool.
Target was going to pay me a little more, but they didn't want to work around my college schedule.
That's why they wanted to pay you more. They wanted to pay you more so they could keep you.
Now, here's the fun thing. For me, Blockbuster was a major thing to get because of that desirability of movies. Movies are such an important thing to me. Like currently you work at an establishment where you deal in music gear.
Yeah.
Which is a perfect thing for you with your music background, your love of music, and your knowledge.
Yes.
For me, Blockbuster was like heaven. I remember nights where I would, for fun, with my workers that were there, the CSRs that were there, or the managers when I was just a CSR, and with the customers, I'd play things like 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Oh, yeah.
For the fun of it. That, of course,
speaking of which, just for anybody who's listening to this,
I was about to explain.
This dude's the master at that. There is not an actor that he can't.
That's not true. There are probably actors that I can't do it with, although I did do it with Valentino at one point.
Valentino.
Rudolph Valentino, like silent film actor.
Oh, wow.
But that took a bit of work.
Wow.
I actually had to do some research on that one. I couldn't pull it straight from my head.
Wow. And now, are there particular requirements to that, by the way? As far as playing 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, they have to be a relatively established actor?
They should be a relatively established actor, although there are a few trick ones that you can pull out for people that are... Like I can do Vanilla Ice, for instance, which is a trick one.
Oh, no.
Vanilla Ice is actually pretty easy.
Stupid movie.
What?
Well, Cool as Ice has a lot of other actors in it.
I don't use Cool as Ice.
What do you use?
Although now... I could use a different one now. Wow, I just realized I could use a different one now.
Well, it just hit me which one you could use.
TMNT2.
Yeah, totally.
That's the one I usually use. I connect
TMNT2.
I connect them to Ernie Reyes.
Yep.
And then I can connect Ernie Reyes to a bunch of places.
Oh, yeah.
Red Sonja with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Bridget Nielsen.
Mm-hmm.
And then Arnold Schwarzenegger to
anybody who doesn't know how 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon works.
That's what I was going to explain.
You have to use, basically what you have to do is you tie Kevin Bacon to any actor or actress, that has been featured in films via chain of film
In 6 movies or less.
in 6 films or less. That's how it works.
Now, okay, so just to finish
So
that
what
one,
he's doing, like let's tie Vanilla Ice to Kevin Bacon.
Okay.
To start from the top.
Vanilla Ice in TMNT 2,
Is that technically 1?
Secret of the Use, that's the first one,
Okay.
with Ernie Reyes Jr.
Okay.
Ernie Reyes Jr. in Red Sonja with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
That's 2 films.
Arnold Schwarzenegger in End of Days with Kevin Pollak.
3 films.
Kevin Pollak in A Few Good Men with Kevin Bacon.
There you go. And that's done in a total of 4.
Interestingly, my high school English teacher and theater teacher was an extra in the movie Wisdom, starring
Wow.
Emilio Estevez and Demi Moore, which means that he's actually only 2 movies away from Kevin Bacon because he's in Wisdom with Demi Moore. Demi Moore's in A Few Good Men with Kevin Bacon.
Yep.
Boom.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
And I directed him in a
Question.
play, so does that make me 3?
So cameos. Question. Cameos
Cameos can count.
can count, but what if a film that is featured within a film? What about a film that's featured within a film? Like somebody's watching, for
Give
instance,
me an example.
let me think of,
While you're thinking of that, John Wayne is in El Dorado with James Caan.
okay.
James Caan. Let's see, where do we want to go with James Caan? We can do.
Because I have an idea of one,
Okay,
but
go
I'm
ahead.
not sure. Okay. So let's say you were to tie Charlie Chaplin. Let's take it way out.
Okay, if you're talking about using footage of Charlie Chaplin or somebody watching footage of Charlie
See,
Chaplin,
that's the catch.
and something else. No, okay. Here's the deal. The only way that I would consider being able to use a film that somebody's watching in another film or something that somebody's watching in another film,
Right.
is if that thing that they're watching was made specifically for that movie. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense. Like you made a film that starred another actor that was specifically in another film, and that film continuity is the only place that exists.
Example.
Yes.
Scream 2.
Okay.
At the beginning of Scream 2,
Okay.
when the people are all in the theater watching Stab,
Right, which is a parody of Scream.
which is a parody of the first Scream story,
Right.
and the actors and actresses that are in the Stab movie
Right.
could be used to connect because it's a film made for the film.
Made
It's
specifically
not
for
something that they're watching. It's not like they're watching like in
Like you can't take like let's
like
say
in the movie WALL-E.
Wall-E.
I know you're not that familiar with WALL-E, right?
Somewhat.
He finds a clip of Hello Dolly
Yes.
and is watching bits of Hello Dolly.
Yes.
I believe it's Hello Dolly he's watching. You can't take any of the actors and actresses from Hello Dolly,
Or
connect
they
them in
said
with
featured in
WALL-E,
those clips.
because it's a movie that was already in existence. It wasn't made as a product for that film.
Okay, so so let's consider that. Like, so you wouldn't necessarily use the film. You wouldn't use like Forrest Gump, right? You
Yeah.
can use Forrest Gump as like it goes way out.
Yeah.
You can use Forrest Gump as one of the major films. Haley Joel Osment's character, Forrest, I think he's watching Looney Tunes
You wouldn't be able
on
to
the
connect-
television,
yeah,
but you
wouldn't
can't
connect the Looney
necessarily
Tunes.
count Mel Blanc because he's featured as a voice. And
Yeah.
I think he's watching Tom and Jerry, which is, whatever. But basically, you can't use
No.
that way.
No.
Now, Charlie Chaplin.
That one I can't do right off the top of my head because I cannot think of another
Okay,
actor
we'll
that
come
Charlie
back to that
Chaplin
one.
has been with
Yeah,
to be able to connect. The problem is finding an actor that the one has been with. That one I would
That has been
say
featured
I'd
in
have
other
to do-
films.
I would have to do enough research to be able to say who he was in with to be able to move to other films.
Can I throw another one at you?
The John Wayne one real quick.
Yeah.
El Dorado with James Caan.
Okay.
James Caan is in Mickey Blue Eyes with Hugh Grant.
Okay.
Hugh Grant is in Notting Hill with Julia Roberts.
Okay.
Julia Roberts is in Flatliners with Kevin Bacon.
That's 4 films. There you go.
So
How
who's the
about Judy Garland? I'm going with the classic ones because they're tough, man.
Yeah, that one I'd have to do research on. My brain isn't remembering enough.
Okay.
to
So
be able to
transferring
say.
errors is a little bit tough. I mean,
Transferring errors is tough.
John
yes,
Wayne's
that's the hard part.
Wayne's impressive. John Wayne's impressive.
The John Wayne one I only know because honestly, my dad's one of my dad's favorite John Wayne movies is El Dorado, and it
Okay.
features a very young James Caan in it.
Okay.
And in fact, he plays kind of the young whippersnapper type character.
Yeah.
In it, his name is Mississippi.
Nice.
Yeah, good movie, fun movie. Remake actually of an earlier John Wayne film, Rio Bravo.
Yeah.
It just has John Wayne. There's two major roles in the film. There's a drunken sheriff, and then there's kind of the gunslinger.
Yeah.
In Rio Bravo, he's the drunken sheriff. In El Dorado, he's the gunslinger.
Cool.
And Rio Bravo, interestingly enough, Dean Martin is in it.
There's another tie.
Dean Martin and what's his name? Oh,
Boy, then there's the entire Rat Pack.
well, yeah, you could tie that in, but I'm trying to think of the Ricky Nelson, the singer Ricky Nelson.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's in that movie too. He plays basically the James Caan role in Rio Bravo.
Cool.
The young whippersnapper role.
Cool.
But,
All right.
But yeah. Anyway, back to the actual Blockbuster discussion. See, this is what we would do on nights. We would just
do that just to, like, I'd quiz this guy on stuff while I was, putting movies away.
Yeah, and admittedly, going between generations in the movies is more difficult.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that Blockbuster did is it made this media. First of all, it gave us these stories like this. It gave us these experiences. But
Yeah,
it
totally.
made this media, this film thing available to us. The generation before us didn't have this in the way that we did. They didn't have the ability to rent in this capacity. Yeah, there were mom and pop rental places in the 80s.
They didn't have this kind of, they didn't have the volume and the library and the availability. They didn't have that.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I remember a young kid that came in. He was on he lived with his grandmother, was on his grandmother's account.
Uh-huh.
And he was just this young, preteen, early teen kid that was just into movies, wanted to know more about movies, wanted to consume. And so I just, kept feeding him different movies, all kinds of stuff, giving him movies that most people wouldn't recommend that were just really good stories, really good acting. And the guy's an actor now.
Whoa.
The guy has an IMDb page, man.
Whoa.
I'm not even joking with you.
That's awesome.
And I remember him when he was just a kid. You might even remember him. When I show you the picture of him, I'll show you afterwards. You may even remember him because he was a customer during the time that you were working there.
Oh, that's so weird.
And he's now, he's only
That
done
is
B
so
movies
weird.
and stuff. He does independent film, but he's legitimately working as an actor. And I'd like to think I was at least a small, tiny fraction of fostering that in him.
Yeah.
Fostering that
kinda
love
fun.
of film.
Yeah.
And it gave us the ability to access it in a way that, again, generations before us never had. When they wanted to watch a movie, they had to wait for some channel on TV to show it.
Yeah.
Maybe if their family was able to afford HBO and Showtime and whatnot, it would come on there eventually.
Yep.
And maybe dad knew how to program the VCR well enough to record it.
Yeah.
And have each VCR tape have 3 movies recorded on it, barely.
Yep.
And you'd have to fast forward through one of them to get to the one in the middle that you really wanted to watch. Mm-hmm. This gave you the capability of renting in a way and consuming in a way that they just never had before. Mm-hmm. This really, I think, created our obsession in this culture with movies. I've said it before. I will say it again. When 200-300 years from now, when they look back on the late 20th and beginning of the 21st century, they're going to look at film as our dominant artwork. Like we look at the Renaissance and look at the painting and the sculpture.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to look at film is the identifying artwork of this time, and Blockbuster is what brought it to the masses until
Netflix
which Blockbuster had the opportunity to buy Netflix.
had the opportunity to buy it for $1 million. They said, nope. That's not the way it's going to go, man.
It was more than $1 million. I know that. I don't have the number written down.
I heard the offer was $1 million.
No, it was more than $1 million.
Because it was like just starting.
I think
Maybe it was $10 million.
I think it was a little bit higher than just $1 million.
I just remember it was a very small amount for a starting business.
Yeah, it wasn't a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
And it was something that Blockbuster should have tried to get into. Blockbuster did try its own online rental service at one point or another.
Well, yeah, that's after Netflix had already started and started conquering the whole thing.
And they did. And obviously now everybody has Netflix in their home. Mm-hmm. Netflix is doing amazing things with their own original programming.
Oh, yeah.
And there's only one Blockbuster left, which leads to what you were going to talk about, right?
That's Bend, Oregon, right?
Yep.
All right.
Oregon,
well, yeah, I know you mentioned
left.
earlier earlier when we were talking about, the old company shirts. Well, I know that the Blockbuster up in Bend, Oregon, which on top of having many different Many different film memorabilia of Russell Crowe's different set pieces,
undergarments, from,
including the
Gladiator.
jockstrap from Gladiator.
Yes.
Yeah. They've also got. They sell like company shirts and all that
Nice.
kind of stuff. And they're small franchise, but they are known as the last Blockbuster. Completely on the side of that, there is a Twitter page.
Yes,
and I
their
believe
Twitter
it's the
page is
official
fierce.
Twitter page for the last Blockbuster.
They are crazy.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That is the best.
Are we
Twitter.
following
That's one of
them
the
yet?
best Twitter pages. What?
Are we following them yet?
I don't know if
follow
we
them.
are, but we need to
We
for
need
sure.
we need to follow them. I will make sure that gets updated today.
Yeah,
We will
I
follow
had
them.
shown him. I think I followed on my personal Twitter page, but holy smokes! If you guys haven't heard of this, search for the last Blockbuster on Twitter. If you guys have a Twitter account, dude, it's worth every bit of it, especially to anybody who used to rent from or shop at Blockbuster, and even more so for former employees.
Yeah.
Former employees at Blockbuster are going to love the hell out of this page.
Maybe we may try to plan at some point. May make it over summer so that it's something that I can. My family obligations won't require me to be home every single day.
Yeah.
Maybe we can plan a trip.
I would love to plan a trip. I know I want to go up there with my wife, so it'd be great.
Do at least a road trip to. Well, I wouldn't be able to bring my wife, sadly.
It's in
but-
Bend, right? Bend,
yeah,
Oregon?
which is about.
Hell, I'd make a round trip,
drive.
and I'd go up to that last Blockbuster, and then I'd also take a trip over to the to the
Valley?
Breedlove factory. Breedlove is a guitar company. Fantastic guitar company. They're actually started by former Taylor employees, which Taylor is one of the biggest acoustic guitar manufacturers.
Yeah.
Breedlove acoustic guitars are some of the best acoustic guitars ever. I'd love to take a little tour of the Breedlove factory because it's in the same town.
This is just hilarious that Mike's thought is, I want to check out a guitar factory.
Of course.
James's thought is, I want to go to the Tillamook Valley where they have all the cheese and the ice cream.
I would go there too.
So we have the music guy thinking guitars. We have the fat guy thinking cheese. I want cheese. Cheese grommet. Wallace and Gromit reference.
Yes, I know.
Watch it. People,
Fine.
watch it. You too. Watch it.
All right, fine.
All of it.
Okay.
But
Well,
yeah.
how's that?
I think we've touched on Blockbuster pretty decently.
Aside from not going into I thought we went to the history of Blockbuster on another podcast, didn't we?
We attempted to do this podcast once before, and the recording equipment didn't listen to us properly.
That's right.
And so that's why I had my notes about it, but that's why I decided I didn't want to necessarily do the educational thing. I wanted to just talk about how
personal experience, man.
Blockbuster affected us and affected our culture. And think about it, Netflix would never have come if it wasn't for Blockbuster.
Yeah.
So all the wonderful Netflix original shows that everybody loves probably would never have happened if it wasn't for what Blockbuster set up in the way that it did. Because again, it really pushed out the mom and pops and created this empire at the time.
Oh, totally.
That crumbled.
Yeah.
But it paved the way for all of the streaming services we have now. Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
All of these services that we can now bring directly into our homes. This was a result of what groundwork Blockbuster laid by being the biggest entertainment provider, at least in this country.
Yeah.
For a very long time and for a large part of our childhood. This was where we went. Now our kids and the kids that aren't our kids have all of these other options, as do we, available to us. But this is where I think it all started and why we still have a soft place in our heart for this place.
I would say so.
Blockbuster is wonderful. Okay, when we come back, we're going to talk about another company that came up in the same time frame that also pushed out all the mom and pops and now is probably one of the biggest companies in the world, and for sure one of the most recognizable companies. To do another MCU tie-in, because this is such a big deal right now, there's a line, in fact, in Infinity War about this company
Oh, wow.
coming into Wakanda.
Shut up.
That's
funny.
When I thought you were, this is what I planned when, we came out and opened the borders of Wakanda to the world. What were you thinking was going to happen?
Right.
The Olympics? Maybe, we'll come back to that later.
Hey friends, this is Mike from the Xennial Chronicles reminding you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Xencron, spelled Xenchron, to keep up to date on all things TXC. And please check out our official website, thexennialchronicles.com, or if that's too much to type, Xencron.com. Thanks again for listening, and now, back to the show.
And we are back. And I left a little moment lingering there before we left.
Yeah. So what's your deal, dude? What are you talking about?
So what they were expecting to bring into Wakanda is Starbucks.
Cute.
And we're talking about Starbucks because
now you didn't just spoil. Did you spoil Endgame for me? Was that an Endgame spoiler?
No, that's in Infinity War.
Oh, okay.
That's in Infinity War.
That's okay. That movie's been out for over a year.
And it's not really a spoiler in that, you know, when people are arriving in Wakanda, they're just like, well, this is what we expected to have happen when you open the borders. We expected, you know, maybe the Olympics, maybe a Starbucks, not you know,
Cute.
war to happen. But I bring up Starbucks, one, because Mike worked at Starbucks for a number of years.
I used to work at Starbucks. Like, yeah, I was there for about 2 years.
And two, Starbucks, again, is another company that came up during our childhood and adolescence.
Yeah, they're based out of Seattle.
Originally out of Seattle, and between 1987 and 2007, they opened on average 2 new locations a day.
Yeah, dude, they just blew up out of nowhere. I remember that because, let's see, when did Starbucks start as a company? They started in the 70s. Is that correct? It's a small, like, mom and pop shop.
1971.
Yep.
At the Pike Place Market in Elliott Bay, Seattle, Washington.
Pike Place Blend is their house blend.
And they first expanded into the Midwest and British Columbia in the late 80s and didn't really do well.
Yeah.
It was when they came into California in the early 90s that they really started to grow. First one outside the U.S. was in 1996, interestingly enough.
Yeah.
But basically they were inspired by Alfred Peet of Peet's Coffee and ended up buying Peet's Coffee eventually.
Wait a minute.
In 84, they purchased Peet's Coffee. They actually own Peet's Coffee.
Do they also own Peet's Coffee?
I believe so.
That's hilarious. Do they own their own top competitor?
Basically.
That's funny. I know a lot of people, especially Starbucks employees, they're just like that. They're other, not necessarily current ones. I can't speak for anybody currently in the company, but a lot of former Starbucks employees are just like, yeah, let's go try Peet's. And people are like, oh, Peet's is way better than Starbucks. That's hilarious.
But
because you know that if they own them, they're overseeing all the production on both sides.
You would think so.
Yeah.
Actually, the Pike Place coffee, they sell out in the beans in the ground in stores, right?
Yes, they sell. They sell a lot of blends.
But Pike Place is one of the blends they do sell.
Pike Place is like that's been their Pike's has been their house blend for a long time.
That's actually one that buying.
They introduced it right when I was leaving.
Yeah, but buying that in the store, whole beans and grinding them myself for my coffee.
Yeah.
At home, I actually really really like the Pike's Place beans.
Yeah, they'll normally have Pike's on the ready. In every Starbucks location. Pike's is like their main one. Or there's also, if you ever check out their blonde roasts, I love the blonde roasts. The difference between...
I don't think I've had those ones.
Okay, so a blonde roast is, here's the way that caffeine works and caffeine content in coffee. Okay? When you have coffee beans, you don't just pick green coffee beans and then just throw them in, grind them, and go.
No, you have to roast them.
You have to roast them. Okay?
Or you have to feed them to... Asian tree cats and let them poop them out.
Which blend is that?
Kopi Luwak.
What?
Kopi Luwak. It's a type of coffee that these Asian tree cats, they're called civets. They actually eat the beans, poop out the beans, and then the beans are collected and made into.
Good Lord, you have to make coffee. You have to give me more context than that. That was weird.
Seriously, it's a real thing. It is a real thing.
Look, human beings do really weird crap.
It's actually the movie Bucket List.
I'm not beyond that's not beyond my realm of thought.
No, the movie Bucket List with Jack Nicholson and Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
That's the type of coffee that he drinks.
He drinks tree cat poop coffee.
Yeah, in fact, Morgan Freeman calls it. Mark this down as a time that you need to quack me out. Morgan Freeman comments that he drinks cat coffee.
Deal.
Yeah. So that'll be fun.
I love it.
But anyway, yeah, not something you're going to find at Starbucks, especially considering
Just to hear Morgan
how
Freeman say that.
expensive it is. It is really, really expensive coffee too.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, you're
Well, it's another set of process. You roast them? No.
No, just have cats eat them and poop them out. That
All right.
does it.
But
their digestive system does what
I've
the
never
roasting
had
does.
that coffee.
Neither have I. But anyway, sorry. Back to the roasting.
All right, so basically when you roast coffee beans, what you're doing is you roast them once and then you roast them again. You actually double roast coffee. And the darker the bean, the more it's been roasted.
Makes sense.
Right. So that's why dark blends have such a rich and they have such a rich, like dark or almost burnt textures because they've double roasted the beans. Well, here's what happens when you roast the beans.
Yes,
the dark. Here, little secret: the darkest blends have the least caffeine in them.
Yep, you're roasting the caffeine out
because you are roasting the caffeine out. You'll notice this if you actually take a look and open up any bag of coffee. Well, open up any non-ground bag of coffee, whole bean coffee. Okay,
which is the best way to buy it. People. Buy
Most
whole
of the-
bean coffee.
Buy
Go
whole
get
bean
yourself.
coffee
Go
and
get yourself a
grind
coffee
it fresh,
grinder,
dude. You won't regret it.
You won't go back.
Yeah, you won't go back. As a matter of fact, a little tidbit of information: if you want Starbucks to grind your coffee, at least back when I used to work with them, they can grind it. They can also grind only half the bag. So you can preserve the whole beans from the rest of the coffee, and then go back and have your other half of the bag ground.
A grinder costs you anywhere from $10 to $20 at almost any major retailer.
They also grind your coffee for free when you buy the bag.
So buy yourself a grinder so that you can grind each morning.
Being able to grind.
Beans.
Oh yeah, dude, grinding your own. Yeah, like he's absolutely correct.
You can
if you grind your coffee straight,
yes,
the day that you make it, it is a whole different experience.
And you don't even have to have an expensive coffee maker. You can have a cheap little drip coffee maker to make your coffee.
Yeah.
And if you're grinding your whole beans, that literally right before you put them in, you grind up your beans, you put them in to your filter and put the stuff in and make them right then and there.
Yep.
The flavor difference that you have in your coffee is unbelievable. You can't conceive how much of a difference it makes in your flavor.
Not at all.
So good.
Yeah, I can agree with that completely.
And if you're gonna be obsessive about it like me, buy yourself a couple of inexpensive airtight containers to store your beans in.
Yep.
I actually have like 4 jars for my different flavors of beans.
Yeah.
That are the vacuum seal glass jars.
Nice.
It's got the rubber.
Got the rubber
seal,
thing where you
and you click them down. Yeah, I have those for my beans, and I have stickers on them that are like the blackboard tape type stuff where you can write on them with chalk.
Yeah.
I have those on each of the of the jars.
Yeah.
So that we can label I really love Kona blends.
Kona's nice.
Kona blends are really, really nice, and they are a light to medium roast typically, so you get decent caffeine content and not too strong a flavor out of them. And Kona roasts and most breakfast blends I really love for their kind of mild flavor and just enough flavor to make it good, but not too much where you're feeling too heavy, too bitter.
Okay,
anyway,
so
back to your
going
Starbucks.
back to it. Yeah, talking about the beans here. When you're talking about the light and the mild flavor, the medium flavors. Medium blends, most medium blends are they're double roasted at least, and even some lighter blends, but they're not roasted for as long. Now, here's the thing. You were saying earlier, you roast the caffeine oil out of it.
Yeah.
One of the telltale signs of how much caffeine content's in a bean, open up the bag, see how oily the bean is. If the bean itself has like oil practically, like if it's coated in oil, and it's like almost beady, that's a lot of caffeine in that bean.
Nice.
Now, the blonde roasts, the reason why it's called the blonde roast is because it's only roasted once.
Okay.
Right? And that's why it has a lighter color when you roast it, but what you're also getting is higher caffeine content and a milder taste.
Nice.
Breakfast blends or blonde roasts are normally only roasted once, or they're roasted not as much as the midday to evening blends.
Okay.
Evening blends, a lot of the time, when you look at evening blends, they're roasted for a longer period of time.
Lower the caffeine
They've
content.
got a stronger taste to them.
Makes sense.
And it's kind of like that. That's what it is with that's what it is with those. So
it's like,
you'll notice
it's like
a big
afternoon
difference.
coffee as opposed to afternoon tea like the Brits do.
Yes.
We do an afternoon coffee has a lower caffeine content, not to mess with our sleep cycle, but a little bit better flavor because we've been up for the day.
Yeah.
We need something with a little more
It's
heady
like a
flavor.
bit of a wind down kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, you have anything with caffeine content, it's going to mess with your sleep.
To some extent, yeah.
Yeah, totally. But that being said, those evening blends of coffee tend to be they tend to be more.
So you get coffee education as well in this podcast.
Yes.
Fantastic. So now this is all obviously stuff that you learned through your experience working with Starbucks.
Uh-huh.
And again, we're bringing this up because the work connection, but also the fact that as I gave you dates before, this really started rising to prominence. Starbucks started rising to prominence in the 90s.
Yes.
As
very
we were
much
turning,
so.
as we were turning into teenagers. I mean, can you imagine teenagers now not knowing what Starbucks was? To us as teenagers, Starbucks was this fascinating place that was so, and so, I mean, some of us, we didn't get a Starbucks near where at least we grew up, probably till the late 90s. It was mom and pop shops for the most part.
Yeah. For the most part, it was mom and pop shops, and most of the time, it wasn't really like coffee shops. That was just for that was just for people who, they were just for people that were just kind of into coffee.
Yeah, artists and coffee lovers.
Yeah,
you didn't
most
go
people,
to coffee shops regularly.
You'd go pick up a can of Folgers over at the grocery store.
Exactly.
And that is your morning coffee. That's what you had, and it's normally, bland. A lot of the time, I'm guilty as charged here. I'm drinking Folgers right now. We're just like, you know what? Let's just pick up a basic can of Folgers. We're on a budget. Let's go get like one of the giant cans that we're going to spend less than half of what you would spend on a pound of coffee from Starbucks or from Pete's or whatever, and have it last for 3 weeks to a month.
Yeah,
because that's how that works. Cool, whatever. But that being said, like most of the time, coffee shops are just like you don't go to drink coffee and hang out in the afternoon. You get it to wake up in the morning. You go to work.
Exactly. It was a frou-frou thing. Only frou-frou people went and did it.
But what Starbucks did was they were a phenomenon. Like when they came out and they started becoming a gargantuan chain, and they were on practically like you see them now. You can't go 3 blocks without finding a Starbucks.
No, they're everywhere.
Yeah, and and what's crazy is they popped up in the 90s, late 90s, like overnight.
Yeah,
those guys went from like you started hearing about Starbucks in 1998. Starbucks was a staple and a plot point in the second Austin Powers movie in 2001. Is that when it came out, or 2000?
Somewhere around that time period, yeah.
And that was like one of the things that Starbucks was an evil corporation.
Yeah.
That was the way that Dr. Evil's
made all his money.
Yeah, he was making all his money.
Number 2 was making money for Dr. Evil with that.
Yeah, that's how big Starbucks got in like practically like a couple of years.
Immediately it just grew to this amazingly huge thing. And see, my reaction at that time, I was in the late 90s one of those frou-frou people that went to coffee shops and drank all the frou-frou flavored coffee. I didn't order normal coffee. I was the one who would drink
you would get the little tiny cup of espresso.
No. I would order my drink, which my drink was always a mocha.
Oh, okay.
And I would order it with like 4 shots of espresso in it, as opposed to the normal 1 or 2.
Yeah.
I would just like, 4 shots of espresso in that 16 ounce thing of coffee. Yeah. Just hit me up with all the espresso humanly possible. Give me coffee. Give me caffeine. And I'd order like 2 or 3 of those and just sit and drink 2 or 3 of those.
Yeah.
Not worrying about what the caffeine was doing to my heart and my brain, just thinking I was enjoying myself some coffee. There was actually a coffee shop that I frequented pretty regularly my first summer out of high school. I worked in an area where there was kind of a bohemian feel, the Grass Valley, Nevada City area here in Northern California.
Yeah.
Kind of a hippie vibe there. And in Nevada City, they had a specific coffee shop that it was a type of coffee shop that doesn't exist anymore, where there was like 6 or 7 random couches in the coffee shop. You know the type of place I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was just kind of, again, bohemian feel to it.
You're talking like this the Friends set piece.
Similar to, yes.
What was the name of that? The Human Being or something like that? Or
that was called Central Perk.
Central Perk,
yeah. Friends.
Why did I say that one? That's another one too. I can't remember where. I think that's I can't remember. I've heard of that.
I know there's a Star Wars reference one that's used in both the movie Fanboys, and I believe it was in the TV series Veronica Mars, which connects because the same actress was in Veronica Mars as was in Fanboys.
Uh-huh.
But it was called Jabba the Hutt.
cute.
Yeah, that's a funny one.
Speaking of which, I remembered seeing this. This was like a meme that came out years ago. That was a So one of the things you do at Starbucks is if you notice all of their signage up at the top, send up over the top, and they'll have their bulletin boards and stuff.
Yeah.
All of them are always written with colored chalk.
Yes.
Well, they had a special at one of the Starbucks that was done, and it was I think it was around the release of one of the Star Wars films.
Okay.
And somebody had hand drawn an Admiral Akbar for the weekly special.
It's a frap.
It's a frap.
Yes, I've seen.
I love that one. That one was a good one. That one's it wasn't very often, but that was actually one of the things I like about Starbucks in general is they do kind of allow you to work with creativity a little bit and
okay,
and
but
do
then
your
they
own
come
thing.
but then they come with that unicorn thing.
Oh, the unicorn frap?
Yes,
Never
that's
had
just-
it.
That's I wouldn't have it. It just looked disgusting.
I don't even think there's any caffeine in it. I'm not sure. I
No,
think it's just one
a
of those
bunch
sugar milk fraps.
Yes, basically.
Yeah, totally.
But no,
I'd
would,
do it just for the hell of it. I'd try it.
No.
I'd try it. Why not?
But I
Ain't no shame in it.
I grew up with that kind of coffee experience. I was one of the people that would hunt out the mom and pop places, the small places that made just a really good cup of coffee.
My mom's idea of a mocha. I'm gonna put her out there. My mom's idea of a mocha. I remember coming home after I lived out of the house for like a year or two. My mom was talking about like, I made a mocha. You want to see? I'm like, sure. And she gets her coffee out of the carafe.
Yeah.
Gets her coffee, pours it in, throws in a little bit of like milk, just like straight up regular milk, and then grabs Hershey's chocolate powder and throws it into the cup. And she stirs up. She's like, here. I'm like, that's not a mocha.
Well, if it
I mean, it
helps,
was good. Don't get me wrong; it was all right. But
it helps
like
any-
a Folgers with milk and powdered Hershey's chocolate is not a mocha.
if it helps any moms, my mom's idea of a mocha was, those cans of International coffee things, hot water and a couple of scoops of a can from the can of that. That was her mocha.
It's fantastic.
But no,
Mom, I love you.
I had a visceral reaction. I guess hold on. You said, Mom, I love you. I guess I'll say the same thing, even though I don't think my mom is listening right now. But, no, you can't edit that out.
I'm not.
Anybody who listens should know my sense of humor. But anyway, no, I was into the mom and pop shops. I was into the small shops getting coffee, and I had a very visceral reaction to Starbucks kind of takeover of the market because it pushed
That I can
out many
understand.
of those places. And at first,
See, now I
can
get
say,
your background behind it because you didn't explain that to me earlier, and I'm
at
sitting there
first-
going, "Why? Why don't you give it a chance?"
At first, I can say I originally refused to give Starbucks a chance because I had a ingrown hatred of them for ruining my coffee experience. It was also one of those things that this is a little bit of a kind of a I don't know how to describe it, kind of a whiny thing on my part, and I'll admit to the whiny nature of it. It was one of those things of the thing that I was a part of a culture of suddenly became acceptable, and I did the not just acceptable but mainstream. And so I had the backlash of, well, great. The thing that I thought was my own kind of thing
It's now not,
now is not as
and now you're
selective.
bitter about that.
Now it's like everybody's jumped on the
All of a sudden,
bandwagon.
it's popular.
Yeah, I had a similar reaction to comic books when the movies came out, and suddenly everybody was a fan of it. It's
Yeah.
like, you were the people that used to make fun of me for reading comic books, and now you're fans of the movies. That's not right. That's not fair. Same thing with Star Wars. When I was a Star Wars fan as a teenager and was obsessed about Star Wars stuff, and people would make fun of me for it, and now they're all huge fans. And oh yeah, we've always loved Star Wars. BS. You have not always loved Star Wars. You used to make fun of me when I was a kid loving Star Wars, how much of a geek and a nerd I am, and now you want to jump on the geek and nerd bandwagon? No, I've been here the whole damn time. You don't get to jump on the bandwagon. Now, I felt the same way with coffee. It's like, again, I was one of those frou-frou people that would go and get a coffee and show up. There was a time when you showed up with a coffee cup, everybody looked at you like, oh, so you're better than us, drinking your flavored coffee, your specialty coffee. Now, when you don't show up with a Starbucks cup from somewhere, people are like, oh, you didn't get Starbucks? Why didn't you get Starbucks? Everybody goes to Starbucks. Starbucks has almost become synonymous with coffee. If you go to get a coffee, you don't say, I'm going to get a coffee, I'm going to get a Starbucks. It's like when you have When you have a small injury on your hand or your arm or something, when you have a small injury, what do you put on it?
You get a Band-Aid.
No, you get an adhesive strip unless you bought Band-Aid brand Band-Aid, because Band-Aid is a brand. It is not the item.
You know what's funny?
The item is an adhesive strip. It is not a Band-Aid.
There are a few items that are that have actually complete side point. There are items that have lost their trademark because they became such a staple. Their terminology themselves have become a staple. I want to look some up.
This is okay. Put a notation down, sir.
Yeah.
For another podcast of looking up items that have lost their trademark because their name has become synonymous with what they are.
Yes.
The Band-Aid thing, by the way, part of the Kevin Smith Clerks animated TV series.
Yes. Band-Aid is a brand name. The proper term is adhesive strip.
Yes.
This guy's bleeding all over the place, and you're getting into a semantic argument?
Go Randall.
Yeah. I still love the opening of that. Somebody help, please. I cut my hand on a rubber band.
Yes, everybody look for the animated.
That series is honestly more. I happen to have it. That series is more quotable than it is funny, to be real. However, watch it because there are so many little things that are just dumb.
Isn't Alec Baldwin the voice of Leonardo in that?
Yes,
that's hilarious. Funny side note. First thing I ever watched on DVD,
Gilbert Gottfried's the voice of Patrick Swayze, which is one of my favorite versions of Patrick Swayze I've ever heard.
I'm gonna have to go see that.
Hi-ho Roadhouse, away!
But no, one of the first DVDs I ever watched was the Clerks TV series, animated TV series. One of the first things I ever watched. It wasn't the first one I bought. It was one I rented and watched from Blockbuster when I worked at Blockbuster.
Nice.
The first one I bought was Minority Report.
That was the whole series, like all 6 episodes, right?
Yeah.
There were a total of 6. I hated the fact that they did that ABC did that with that series. They aired episode 6, which was, I think it was the Matrix episode, like the Matrix parody episode. And then they aired episode 2, which was a flashback reference parody episode to only episode 1. So they continually reference a scene in the first episode that never aired because episode 6 was aired on TV. Wow. And so it failed. Like they just pulled it after 2 episode airings. 2 weeks, it was done.
Wow. That's hilarious.
That was the big thing that one of the big reasons why it failed.
You think now that they're kicking themselves with who Kevin Smith has become after all these years.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, back to Starbucks.
Yes.
back to coffee talk. So, no, like I said, for a long time, that was my issue with Starbucks was the fact that, again, it's like they took my private club away.
Yeah.
They took this thing that I was, this elite group that I was part of and made it so mainstream.
You know what? I've always had a problem with people that had that mentality.
Thanks,
just because, Mike. Dude, I'll put it out right now. I'll air it right now. Here's what's up, dude. Unless you're the person that created that thing and you want to keep it secret from everyone else and you never want to share it.
No, I get you.
If you experience it, it's not yours. The experience that you have is yours, but you are not exclusive to experience that. This is the problem I have with bands that get big and all of a sudden their original fan base gets bitter. Shut up. They were better with the first album or blah, blah, blah. No.
Well, now hold on a second.
And small franchises or that type of experience, the coffee shop experience, you know what Starbucks actually did for me, man? It opened me up to the experience of other coffee shops, to go to independent places and see what they're about.
Well, no, and for some people, that's what it became. I think with the initial expansion of it,
yeah,
the effect that it initially had on the market of putting some of the other places out of business at first,
okay,
or at least reducing the business of other places at first, it was, again, for somebody who I can say I may have seen that as too much of my kind of identity of sorts, and I shouldn't have.
Yeah,
it was something that became bothersome to me.
You know what's really funny is
a problem to me, and so for a long time I refused to be a part of the Starbucks revolution.
Yes,
this was just on what I felt was principle alone.
Yeah,
but then.
You know what? Before you move forward, I will tell you this. It does work itself in, and I'm having a bit of a contradiction in thought here.
Yeah.
Although I do still think that it is, I do still think that's where my foundation. If you think that you should own this exclusivity to that experience,
Yeah.
it shouldn't take away from the experience. So what? Other people are sharing in that experience now, no matter what venue they are seeing, in order to understand that. Like, so people didn't read Lord of the Rings books. Do they know what the Lord of the Rings storyline in general may be? Yeah, possibly. But just because they didn't read the books doesn't mean that they shouldn't get to enjoy it. That's why they made the films. They didn't make the films for the people that read the books. They made the films to share the experience with other people that didn't read the books.
Okay, I'm
that
going to
being
go with
said,
you. Go ahead.
That being said, I do understand what you are having, or what you're talking about, is the same experience that most teenagers with a punk band mentality go through. That is a normal thing.
Okay, I'm going to say
the experience of punk in general kind of tends to engulf that. Maybe it's just because I am equating it with a musical. It could very well be that I'm equating it with the musical experience, but most of the time, most people that I see that have this problem, that I don't necessarily. Yeah, you have a problem with the fact that an experience that you had that you felt was yours was corporatized and shared with the rest of the world in a venue that you didn't agree with. And I understand that.
Okay.
But part of it has to do with the exclusivity of the experience being something that you felt was your experience, but it's not your experience because it was created by somebody else. However, I can understand that same idea of, and I would call it the punk man mentality. It's the experience that you had of something that was created by people that had an independent experience, something that was small. Part of what made it special was the fact that not everybody knew what it was.
Well, okay, there's that point to it. There's that point to it. But let me add you an additional point to it, okay?
Okay.
I think what we have a problem here with is identification. Labeling and identification.
Okay.
We'll use your Lord of the Rings thing as an example first.
Okay.
Okay? If somebody just blatantly flat out says, and this is an issue that we can maybe discuss more at a later time, fandom issue.
Okay.
I'll just touch on a little bit here. If somebody says just a blanket statement of, I'm a Lord of the Rings fan.
Okay.
That to me is a blanket statement that says that you understand enough about the Lord of the Rings, that you've seen movies, read books, know of the video games, know enough of the lore and enough of the things to really claim fanhood of this.
Okay.
Then you start talking to them and find out that they've only seen the Hobbit movies.
Okay.
Have not even seen the Lord of the Rings movies.
Okay.
Have not read any of the other materials. Don't know of any video games.
Okay.
Barely know anything about it. They just saw the movies and liked them.
Okay.
But they claim the term fan. To me, I think the term fan is thrown around too often and does not have the weight and gravity that, and this is admittedly entirely my own opinion on the subject, but I think it doesn't have the weight and gravity that it should have. Example, you'll talk to me about various bands or genres of music.
Okay.
And I'll say, yeah, I've heard some of their stuff. I like a few of their things.
Okay.
But you won't hear me say that I am a fan unless I am enough of a fan of something to have real knowledge of it. And yes, this is just a semantics thing.
Okay.
Really boils down to semantics. But I think that's with the Starbucks experience. Mm-hmm. To me, I feel the people that really see Starbucks as the wellspring of coffee, as the be all and end all of coffee, that have this newer generation specifically that identifies coffee basically with Starbucks.
Yeah.
I don't think when they say that they like coffee, they don't like coffee. They like Starbucks. They don't understand coffee. They understand Starbucks. And I think the two are exclusive from each other. The two things. Yes, Starbucks sells coffee, but the Starbucks experience isn't necessarily about coffee. It's about many different things, not just coffee. I think the coffee experience is something beyond Starbucks. And to say you're a fan of coffee, that coffee is something important to you, mm-hmm. It's got to be more of a thing than just Starbucks. And that's where I think Starbucks basically hijacked coffee in the way that their business model happened, the way their expansion happened. I think at first, I'm not saying that it hasn't changed, but I think at first they hijacked the concept of going and getting not even just basic coffee, but any kind of specialty coffee beyond just a basic cup of Joe.
I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
why do you use the term hijacked in this instance? Because the idea itself, although the idea of going to a coffee shop is not an individual idea.
No, I think part of Starbucks' business model, and it's a good business model, it's a good business plan, was to make themselves synonymous with the word coffee. Was to make it so that when you talked about coffee, you only talked about Starbucks. And by doing so, I think that is almost the definition of hijacking coffee.
I wouldn't necessarily. Okay, look, I understand.
I'm not saying it's bad. I mean, if I'm a Starbucks executive, I want to hijack coffee.
Okay.
Because I want everybody when I want people to talk about going to a coffee shop, their automatic mindset should be going to Starbucks. So I understand the reason behind it. But as the consumer, they've hijacked the idea of a coffee shop. They've hijacked the idea of going and getting coffee.
Question.
Yes.
So in this instance, I understand you're looking at Starbucks as trying to make themselves synonymous with it because they want to be the reference for coffee that most people use.
And
is that correct?
And again, it makes perfect sense for them to do that.
Okay. So the next question is,
yes,
would you take that mindset and then, like, would you consider a band that both of us are very much fans of, Metallica?
Yeah.
Would you consider that they would have hijacked heavy metal or have hijacked heavy rock music? Because many other examples exist, but those guys, for a lot of people, are essentially the benchmark. And although controversial, as many fans that are independent, or many fans that are fans of independent metal and independent offshot genres, when you look at Metallica as a band, they even put metal in their name. They are so on the nose with that name, it's not even funny. And when you consider the term heavy metal, if you talk to a casual listener, or a casual listener,
Metallica will be one of the first
say
bands
the term, do you like heavy metal? That's the first name that they think of is Metallica.
Typically, yes.
Would you consider that hijack?
No, no, and here's my reasoning for that.
Okay.
I don't think the two fields, the music industry and consumer beverages, I don't think that those equate properly.
Why not?
Because Metallica is not literally forcing other places out of business or other bands out of business by what they're doing. They're not moving in on anybody else's territory. They do their thing in a separate fashion. The model of any kind of company that is selling a product in a retail location is going to be a different model than what you're getting at for an ownership of the retail location.
Okay, wait a minute. I'm a little confused here.
I just don't think you can equate a band and the band's the music that the band creates and the image that the band creates.
Yeah.
I don't think you can kind of compare that to a retail outlet that is or a service industry outlet that is making these beverages and doing. I don't think it properly equates over because you're talking two different forms of consuming.
Well, no, not necessarily. Just because the product is different doesn't necessarily mean that they're creating the same influence. Think about it this way, okay? I, as an independent musician, somebody who's been making music for a long period of time on my own, without basically, I'm fully independent. Okay. No label. Okay, stop. Nothing.
I'll stop you right here and give you the analogy with you.
Okay.
Are you putting is your goal to put other competitors out of business? Is that your purpose? Is your purpose to replace other competitors?
Wait, stop. Before you go there, because I think you are, and I understand that you would be. Has Starbucks ever specifically said that they're trying to put other competitors out of business?
But not necessarily, but that is the business model, is to replace everybody else.
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
Why would you say that? You have to make that argument by actually stating that that's literally what they're saying. They're not trying to do that. That's why Starbucks is not being pinned for monopoly right now. There are other coffee shops that exist. Do they struggle? Yes, absolutely.
But
are they the powerhouse that Starbucks is? No.
Okay.
But does that mean that Starbucks' existence Starbucks' existence in now trying to make themselves available as a business in multiple areas,
Okay,
and the
and see-
capability of being able to do that is
Then
one
let's-
thing.
let's go
But
on-
they're
let's
not
go onto that
intentionally
track.
trying to shoehorn their way in away from other coffee shops.
Let's go into that track. The fact that they put a Starbucks every 3 blocks, as you were saying earlier.
Yeah.
The fact that there's a store there everywhere.
Yes,
Now there is a band that tried to do something like that.
that tried to eliminate other bands.
No, that tried to force themselves to the forefront of everybody's knowledge and existence and shove themselves down the people's throat.
Who was that?
U2, when they had the one album come out on the Apple devices.
I don't think that's true.
I think that's the closest analogy that you get in the music world to what Starbucks has done. Starbucks has, by putting their locations in the places that they've effectively, whether they have openly said that this is what they're going to do or not, they've effectively made it so they are pushing out the competition by making themselves so available. That's why I don't think it works as well with the music situation.
No, I think
I don't think it makes the same analogy. You can attempt to make the analogy on places that bands tour, and maybe make that analogy in the sense that that a band like Metallica, for instance, tours as much as it does,
Right.
in support of its stuff.
Yeah.
Because it isn't so much about the album sales as it is, and the album availability as it is about maybe the touring. But even that doesn't completely equate to the other kind of retail consuming. It's a different equation. It's a different set of business. I'm not an economist, but
Yeah.
I'm fairly certain that economists will tell you those two things don't necessarily equate in the business world. The way that those two things operate, the way that they package and sell and work in an economic setup, they don't work in the same way.
I'm
And
not sure.
And that's the difference. You're also
Oh,
looking at.
I've got a question for
You
you.
also look at the fact that Starbucks has yearly growth changes.
Okay.
Metallica doesn't necessarily have that. The music industry doesn't necessarily have that in the same way.
That's
they
not
only have-
necessarily true. Look at Disney, dude. Disney would be another
Music-
another example.
Music industry is what I'm talking about first. Now, talking about Disney, it's a whole different ballgame with Disney, and Disney is trying to, in many ways. I mean, they bought our childhood, man.
Well, think about it. Okay, so
They bought our childhood. They bought our teenage years. They bought everything that we ever loved. And now control it all.
Now think about that. Think about that. Would
And
you
they're
equate
running-
Disney with Starbucks? Because are they just because they happen to be buying other media companies? And yes, they have an involvement in music. They've been doing
To
it for
some
30
extent,
years.
yeah.
Are you kidding me?
No, they
they
do.
still have contracts with the Jonas Brothers, and they still have contracts with Britney Spears, I'm sure.
Now Disney may fall under a different realm when we're discussing it.
But they're involved
that may
in
be-
music. They're involved in media, television. They're involved in movies,
Well,
multiple different franchises,
have
branching far beyond the mouse.
They also have their theme parks and
They have theme
I would say Disney could fall into that same category. But again, look at what Disney has done. They've edged out almost all their competitors. There's only a few other studios that do animated films because Disney has edged all them out with it.
That's essentially true.
And that's-
Now that
and that's
doesn't
the
mean
same
that.
thing
Now
that
does
Starbucks
that
has
mean?
done.
Question: does that mean that it's impossible for an animation company to start up?
No, and again, I'm not saying it's not impossible at this point for another coffee shop to. I mean, look at Dutch Brothers in this area, in the
Yeah.
California area. Dutch Brothers.
There's obviously far less Dutch Brothers, but there's a lot of people that I know of that swear by Dutch Brothers that will not.
They won't go to Starbucks
touch a
at all.
Starbucks. Yeah.
And I'm not saying that other things don't exist. I'm just saying, especially in the late 90s when Starbucks was making its rise, late 90s, early 2000s, their goal, whether spoken outwards or not, was to dominate the coffee landscape, was to become synonymous with coffee. Disney's goal at this point is to become synonymous with everything we love. Quite literally.
There's essentially,
they have the
corporatizing
happiest
nostalgia. I guess
they
is
have
what
the
it sounds
happiest
like, right?
places on earth, and they sell them as the happiest places on earth.
Yeah.
They sell every little bit of it, and I would say Disney and Starbucks would be the same type of corporations that want to completely dominate their markets. And I'm not saying that
technically, would you consider that monopoly? The problem is that Disney is opening up to so many other different types of media that it's almost like they're trying to
I think when you
open
get, I think
themselves
the
up
difference
to
is
multiple.
when you get monopoly is when you get it to be openly shutting down other places,
Yeah.
as opposed to doing it just by attrition. There's a difference between specific action to stop your competitors and then the competitors just falling apart by years of just not making as much money.
Would you
There is
say
a
that's what
difference in that.
Blockbuster did?
I'd say that Blockbuster tried to and then failed.
Well, it's because they didn't move along with the media.
No, they
And
didn't.
That makes
They
sense.
didn't. They didn't change up enough
They
when
didn't
they
change
needed
with
to.
with the medium itself, but
And that's how they were. That's how they were.
I guess
putting it
I
out
just
of
I don't know.
business.
When I look at what Starbucks is doing as a company, as a former employee, maybe it just could be that I'm a former employee and that's the way I'm seeing it.
You may have drunk a little bit too much of the Kool-Aid. It's possible.
But I just don't see. I don't really see a company that is intentionally trying to eliminate literally all other competition to where they're the only reference to coffee that
I don't think
ever
they're worried
exists.
about eliminating it. I just think they're worried about being better than everybody else to make it so that when you talk about coffee, everybody's first thought is going to be
Is
Starbucks because they're the most ever present. They put themselves everywhere again. And I mean, the every 3 blocks thing is a
in
little bit
order
of
to be
hyperbole, but
successful at selling a product, you need to be the first thing that people think of.
that would be the best
Band-Aid,
way to do
bro.
it. Band-Aid. How about the things that people clean their ears out with, even though they're not supposed to?
Q-tips.
No, they're not. They're
They
cotton
are not
swabs.
called Q-tips. They are cotton swabs.
cotton
Yes.
swabs.
They are cotton swabs, but everybody says Q-tip as a brand. I think that's. I honestly think that's fascinating.
And it is
To me. I look at that and I think marketing genius. I don't look at that and go, that's a company that's trying to completely eliminate everybody else, because that doesn't mean that you can't create a store brand cotton swab and still sell it.
No, you can. You can. It's just people are going to reference that company, and that company is going to be the one that. And I mean, I'm sure Band-Aid brand Band-Aids are the ones that are going to sell the most.
Yeah, they will. And they will sell the most, but they're also not the only option.
No, they're not. And again, Starbucks isn't the only option, but that's their goal was to be. I do believe their goal was to be synonymous with coffee.
To be the go-to option.
And again,
is different from being the only option.
No,
there is a difference.
And that's if I was unclear in my stating was to say that they were the go-to option. They were the synonymous one.
Yeah.
And that's where again,
in that I would consider that they have succeeded, but that doesn't mean that there's no room for anybody else.
And initially that what seemed to be the focus of that campaign is what made me avoid them. But then
I can understand that.
But then I was willing to give them a try. Now we spoke about this before we started recording.
Yeah.
I have one drink I order when I go to a coffee place to try it out. Mm-hmm. Because to me this is the one drink that it's a simple drink. It's very few ingredients. Right. And it's a drink that either you get right or you get wrong. Mm-hmm. And I judged my coffee shop on whether they get this drink right or get it wrong because it is so simple.
Right.
It's more than just pouring a cup of coffee though, so it requires a little bit of work, but it's simple.
Right.
I get a mocha.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Former Barista, I even give you the barista title. Don't you feel special?
Oh, no.
No? Wonderful. Anyway, Mr. Former Barista, what goes into a mocha?
Chocolate, coffee, milk. It's 3 simple ingredients. Now, the coffee itself should be, from what I'm trained as, it needs to be steamed milk.
Yes.
Espresso.
Yes.
And chocolate syrup.
Yep.
And maybe not like, manufactured chocolate syrup. I mean, there's different types of chocolate you put into a mocha. But that being said, the formula is chocolate syrup, steamed milk, and espresso.
That's simple.
That's it.
So I tried experiencing that at various Starbucks locations.
Yep.
I can say I don't know exactly how many times I went into a Starbucks and ordered that, but I can say at least 4 of the times that I ordered it,
right,
just ordering a mocha,
yep,
I was given a frozen blended drink.
That's incorrect.
Every other time I ordered it, it was never right. Never chocolatey enough, or actually I never got too chocolatey. I could barely taste chocolate flavor the majority of the time. And most of the time it just tasted burnt, bitter, and nasty.
I was going to say, if that's the case and it tasted bitter and nasty, then they burnt the milk.
Which is
90% of the time they burnt the milk. That is very easy to do. You have to keep your eye on that thermometer the entire time you're steaming that milk. And that's actually one thing that they drilled into my head. And like I said, I worked for Starbucks like 10 years ago. I'm not saying that they don't concentrate on that, but I do also understand that, hey, when things get a little assembly line, get it done. It's
busy.
You're busy. You can't keep your eye on everything. You've only got 2 eyes. You got 2 hands. And those 2 eyes only look in one direction at all times. right?
Yeah, we're not chameleons.
Right, exactly. So you can't keep your eye on a thermometer while you're making espresso and then pulling ice out of something. Plus, you've got 6 other drinks that are sitting in front of you. You got to start pumping while you're steaming milk and doing all that. Yeah, it does get crazy. So yeah, you're going to make a mistake every once in a while.
Especially when you have, and I think that's another difference is Starbucks, I think, helped build the customer expectation of speed. And I mean, it's become our new place where people complain about service and their stuff not getting done right. It's like that's the place where you have complaining customers all the time. That's replaced.
They took coffee shops and turned them into fast food joints almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
you got a kid that's think about it this way, man. If your burger order isn't done in less than 4 minutes and it's not perfect, you're pissed. This is the same case with coffee.
Especially
However, I will tell you, if you just communicate a little bit, you'll probably solve most of that issue. You go, hey, really sorry about this. I burnt your milk. I'm going to go ahead and re-steam your milk and give you fresh milk. Sweet. Thank you. All right, cool. Take us a quick second.
The Karens of the world will not accept that, sir.
Well done. You're going to have somebody speaking to the manager.
Somebody will be talking to the manager about wanting that drink for free because it was not made right the first time.
Yeah.
And and I think that's replaced what happens in what used to be the supermarket.
That is the apology now, though. That is the apology.
What?
Something for free.
Yeah, that is. Oh, it's expected.
I ordered it. I expected it this specific time. You did not do this to my complete specifications that I paid $4 for a drink. I want it for free.
Doesn't matter that you
want a free
it
one.
Or make it perfect. You have to give somebody something for free now.
Yes.
And I think that is one of the places that has helped to foster that idea. I wouldn't say it's the only one.
There's a lot of that stuff. You know what? That's where you insert the fast food mentality into the service industry in general.
Interestingly, I think I do believe that Starbucks is part of the FOMO financial crisis too.
Oh, really?
I think that the younger generations are spending so much money on their Starbucks to keep up with everybody else having Starbucks.
Yeah.
All the time. I mean, you're talking $5 to $7 a freaking coffee, man.
It can be.
That's just insane.
Look, I've gotten some insane orders from people too. There was a guy who actually used to come through the store that I think I'm still friends with the guy too. There's a guy that used to come through.
Friends with customers? Why would you ever do that?
As 2 former employees.
Well, I actually invited customers to my wedding. Seriously, I think I invited Blockbuster customers to my wedding.
Well, I mean, you see them on the regular.
Yeah, some of them.
You start to build a friendship with them.
Yep.
But that being said, there was a guy who I would get. It's a venti, which is 20-ounce drink.
Yeah, what the hell is with the names, man? Why not small, medium, and large?
You know what's really funny is I've always been super confused with that personally because so there used to be, and here's the explanation. So there used to be 3 sizes: short, tall, grande. Makes sense, right?
It's a little bit
short
better.
For small, tall for medium, grande for large. Grande literally means large.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So
except in a different language. Again, why can't we do it all in one language? But
a short was an 8-ounce.
Yeah.
A tall was a 12-ounce, and a grande was a 16-ounce.
Okay.
Okay. So far, you follow me?
Increments of 4. Got it.
Right? Okay.
That makes sense.
So here's what happened. Nobody started ordering the shorts. They always wanted tall and grande.
Makes sense.
Then they introduced venti. So what ended up happening? Venti means 20-ounce. It means 20. Venti is literally 20 in Italian.
Okay.
It's a 20-ounce drink.
Got it.
Okay. So you had short, tall, grande, and venti. Nobody ordered shorts. It cost them money to keep making the cups. They removed short.
Okay.
Which is why the small drink is a tall, because they didn't change the name of the drink because everybody was used to ordering those drinks by name at that time. So small is tall, which is just 10 ounce.
I thought you said it was 12.
Oh, you're right. It was 12. I'm sorry.
12, 16, tall is 12, 16, 20.
12? Yeah, 12, 16, 20. So tall is 12 ounce, 16 ounce for grande, and venti for 20. Now they've got another one. They have I think it's a Trenta. That's one since afterwards. It's a 30-ounce drink. They're going big gulp with their coffee, man.
That's
And there's still 4 sizes. I might as well just bring in the short.
I mean, seriously. It's just that's
At that point, I'm just like, hey guys, we've got options.
that's insane.
Yeah, but at the same time, the reason why they removed the small drink is because nobody was ordering a small anymore.
I mean, it makes sense. Who wants just 8 ounces of coffee?
Welcome to Big Gulp America.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Got to feed.
gotta
the
have that
stomach.
supersize, bro.
Definitely. Although you can't get supersized anymore.
You can't.
Supersize is not available at McDonald's anymore.
Oh,
It's just large.
whoa.
Yeah.
I never thought. I never supersized anything. I just thought it was really useless. My stomach isn't that big, man.
Sorry, mine is. But anyway, I think we've touched on more than enough of Starbucks. We've gone on forever about it, but that's good.
So I mean,
because it's such a huge, it really is such a huge part of our culture.
Yeah.
That literally, and I can say, I gave Starbucks a try at different points in time. I did try some of their cold beverages at different points in time.
Yeah.
But when it comes to coffee, I grind my own at home and drink my own at home. Or whenever I'm here doing recording, I drink whatever Mike has made.
Yep.
Beyond that,
Let me make it here.
Beyond that, 1, I can't afford Starbucks all the time. 2, it just doesn't do it for me.
I can understand that. I will tell you this, though, and I believe we talked about this earlier. One of the things that you end up dealing with, like I said, it's part of the fast food mentality.
Yeah.
You make stuff in a hurry, some details get missed. So every once in a while, do yourself a favor. To anybody who's listening, who wants to give it a shot or feels like giving it a shot, go buy a non-ground bag of Starbucks coffee. Get yourself a coffee grinder like we were talking about earlier.
Yes.
And just grind your own coffee and make it based on the instructions on the bag.
I can tell you,
Regular drip.
I've done that, and the Starbucks. I mean, I don't buy the Starbucks brand coffee regularly because it is more expensive than the coffee I buy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a couple dollars more per pound, and it's just a little more than I want to spend on the coffee.
Yeah.
I spend more than, say, just the container of Folgers.
Yeah.
But I don't spend as much as I would on again the Starbucks. But I can say that makes all the difference in the world. I've had about 3 different flavors of the Starbucks coffee when I first started doing the grinding, and it really does make a difference. It was 2.5 years ago that I started grinding my own coffee.
Yeah.
And I have not gone back.
You know what I would
won't
say
go
too?
back.
And also, just to kind of throw this out as a bit of a disclaimer, this is not an endorsement of Starbucks coffee in general.
No, just
But I will tell you this. A lot of the time, if you just follow the damned instructions on the bag, most brands are like this. Starbucks is like this. Pete's is like this. Seattle's Best is like this.
a lot of the times with
and
anything
those are
that you
larger name
have,
stuff. But a lot of dude, just give it a shot that way.
With anything that you have, following instructions is good. They're there for a reason.
Exactly.
All right, we're going to end this now. Hopefully you've learned a little something about our experiences with Blockbuster and Starbucks.
Yeah.
And any questions, comments, please let us know.
Yeah. Go ahead and leave a comment if you guys are on Facebook or on YouTube with us. Also, if you guys are listening, if you're looking for other options, we are on Spotify, we are on TuneIn, we are on Google Play. And
the YouTube page.
And the YouTube page. We're also on YouTube. The videos are available on Facebook, like I said, on YouTube and Facebook. Leave a comment if you guys want to check us out on our original website. We're at thexennialchronicles.com or zencron.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Xencron, XENCHRON. And yeah, hope you guys have a good one.
Enjoy.
Thank you for tuning in, friends. The journey continues next week.